Hello everyone, I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lions TV. Welcome to a 5 talking points video after our 2-2 draw against Vidi last night. You guys, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the anti-Semitism from the game yesterday. I'm going to be talking about RUBEN. I'm going to be talking about Ross Barkley. I'm going to be talking about CALLUM Hudson Odoi. And I'm going to be talking about GIROUD. You guys, if you like the video and you support the content I create for you, smash that like button, help me get more than 500 likes for today's video, and press the bell notification button as well to stay tuned to all things Blue Lions TV. But anyway, starting with the first point, and I want to discuss the incident that happened at the game with some of the away fans at Vidi. Of course, the anti-Semitism, and it's something that's still persistent in football, especially with this club as well. When I was younger, going to a lot of games, especially away games, I constantly used to hear that word every single time. I used to ask my dad what it meant, and he told me right from the start when I was younger, it's a word that you should never use, and obviously it's not the right thing to say. So it's showing you just how far we've come, that with all the investment and the education that's put into football in regards to really stopping these things from being said at games, it is working. Unfortunately, it's not going to be perfect. You're still going to get these incidents that happen. Do I feel that it tarnishes our entire club? Again, not personally, in my opinion. Now, that's not me dismissing our past. Of course, I'm not going to do that. I found a lot of things of how bad it used to be back in the day. My dad has been an avid Chelsea fan since he was a kid, and he used to constantly tell me stories of incidences and abuse that he used to see back in the day. And my dad is someone I respect quite a lot, and he used to talk about just how unpleasant it was back in those days. Now, one thing my dad did was that he never used to sugarcoat how it used to be back in those days. From the hooliganism to, the racial abuse of players and the racial abuse of fans in the stadium as well. It's part of our history, and it's something we can't sugarcoat or deny. Does that mean that should sum us up forever? Of course not. As in life, all you can do is learn from things, improve, and look to get better. And I really feel that's something the club have been doing recently. They've been trying to really invest a lot in these campaigns to educate fans and really, lose the negative stigma around our club. Now, this process isn't going to happen overnight. It is going to take time, but I really did appreciate Chelsea's response today in regards to those remarks made in the game yesterday, and it's exactly how you should respond to incidences like this. It wasn't some corporate PR answer, and it was quite condescending, as it should be, because if you still have these beliefs and if you're still saying these things in public in a stadium, you're an idiot. You're a moron. You don't have any brain power. Now, how can this issue be tackled? Well, of course, I don't have the answers. I think we can only find the answers if we all speak together and come up with solutions. But do I feel that a points deduction is the right answer? No, I don't think it is. Now, I understand why people say that, in the heat of the moment, when you're reacting to, abuses like this, it's natural to want to really retaliate with something severe. But of course, I don't personally feel that should be the case, because I don't feel like a majority of people should be punished by a minority of people's stupid actions. I kind of think that these guys do get their just desserts in that sense. I think that not only do they get punished from not going to games, but society also punishes them as well. I mean, look at that Yerda granddad that, racially abused Sterling at the game. I mean, he's lost his job, he's not working anymore, and reports are saying in his private life that it looks like his marriage could be on the rocks as well. Society punishes these guys way more than football can, and it's going to continue to be like that. It is a shame that this thing still happens today, but let's be realistic. It's not going to be eradicated overnight. There's going to be many more incidences like this happening in the future. The only thing we can do is that if we see things like this in a stadium, we need to go to stewards. We need to report these incidences. We have to stand up and take responsibility if we hear stuff like this. Now, that's one thing I always respect when it comes to my dad. Now, if you guys don't know, my dad is a white guy, and the amount of times, we've been to games, and it's always been away games, mostly, because I sit in the East stand, so, it's a very affluent type of stands. You don't really hear anything too controversial, but it's always away games that seem to attract this type of people that have these types of mindsets. I mean, the amount of times I've heard black players from our team and from the opposition team being called out. Another thing that doesn't get reported on as much is the racial abuse that Asian fans constantly get all the time. Every time I go to away games, I always hear some, racial slur used against Asian people, and I constantly hear racial abuses made against Spanish people as well. The amount of times I hear spick and wetback, it's ridiculous. And to be honest, this is why I don't really like going to away games. Now, I feel when it comes to supporting a football team, There's no one way to support your club. There's tons of different ways a club makes you feel about them. And I think we need to lose this mentality that you have to act like a yurda to be a football fan. That's not the case. And unfortunately, I just don't like going to away games because you see too many of these yurda type figures at games like this. I don't really think the atmosphere is that nice. I think it ends up being quite nasty way too often. But as I said, the only way to tackle these incidences is for us to take responsibility. If we hear things like this, it's for us to continue discussing and talking about this point, because that's how we can get these guys. I mean, people are constantly filmed in the stadium. You can't hide if you've been caught saying something racist. It's only a matter of time before you're caught. But yeah, you know, I feel like I need to move on from this talking point. Otherwise, I'll talk about it throughout the entire video. Moving on to the second talking point. That's in regards to CALLUM, Hudson, Odoi. Now, further reports are coming out again today, stating that the interest from Bayern Munich is intensifying a lot more now. I'm guessing that every German club wants their young English winger to play for them. But with CALLUM Hudson-Odoi and his performance yesterday, I'm sorry, the guy's ready. From a physical point of view, I think he looks very developed for an 18-year-old. From a technical point of view, I think he's very developed. I think he's above developed for his age as well. I mean, look how he runs with the ball. He's able to use his left foot and his right foot. When he runs and beats a man, he uses both feet. And this is why he's so hard to mark against, and this is why he's so hard to tackle. Look at how he plays. How often does he lose possession of the ball in the final third? It rarely ever happens. He doesn't slow the play down when he's on the ball. He knows what to do with the ball before he receives it. When he runs at someone, he doesn't run for the sake of it. I mean, the guy is a real talent. And it's getting to the point now where it's only excuses if he isn't getting more game time. Now, I understand from a tactical point of view, Sarri might be thinking, well, he needs to understand where to be off the ball and how to defend off the ball as well. That's natural, but at the same time, should that stop the guy from not being a substitute for the last 15 minutes of a game? Of course not. He is 18 years old, and let's not forget, if he does move on to another club for next season, he's going to be 19, he's not going to look so much like a kid anymore, and it's very simple. If you want the player to commit to the club and sign a long-term deal, start using the guy, start playing him. Now, that's not me saying play him against Man City or start him in a Europa League final. I'm not saying anything like that. But there's no excuse for him to not get more minutes, especially at the end of games. And let's remember, Sarri himself has stated that realistically, getting into the top 4 is the realistic ambition for this season. But if that's the case, that should tell you that yes, we are in a transition year, meaning that if we're planning for next season and planning for the future, one of those plans has to involve getting CALLUM to sign a new long-term deal, and for him to do that, he has to start playing. And if you're already stating that you're not expecting us to win a league, CALLUM is good enough to play more games in the league during our transition year. I'm sorry you guys, I think we see this guy with our own eyes. We can see the talent he possesses. I'm really sick and tired of all these boring excuses, you know. Whenever we look at our players, it's always about what they don't have in their game. But when we idolise these young players doing well abroad, we only ever look at their positives. And I think it's about time that Sarri starts being fair. We're already planning for next season. Don't favour the experienced players as much. Now, with January, the only positive I can think is that there's going to be a few players leaving. With Sarri having a smaller squad, hopefully he's going to turn to using CALLUM Hudson-Odoi. As I said in the match review, the fact that he played on the right-hand side told me that Sarri is testing him out to start using him more. We're going to need to because we've got a hectic Christmas break. Now, moving on to the third talking point. That's in regards to Ross Barkley. Now, calm down, hold on a second. I'm not going to be criticising the player in this video, but, and this is something I've been noticing and something I've been thinking for a while, I personally feel that Ross Barkley does better on the right-hand side compared to the left-hand side. And I think one of the main reasons as to why he prospers more down that right-hand side is because it plays to his strengths. And I feel that Ross is better at supporting the play in the system compared to being in the number 8 position where you have to have the X factor, you have to take responsibility, you have to make things happen. You can't have your number 8 playing safe balls, playing safe, you know, horizontal passes, etc. You need that X factor, you need that incision, you need that goal threat, and you need the guy to have that ability to play people in as well. And so far, I've only seen that from Kova and RUBEN this season, playing down the left-hand side. And I think it's quite evident from Sarri as well, because whenever Ross and RUBEN play, Ross is always playing in the Kante position. Look at how Cover and Ruben use the ball. How many times do you see these guys receive the ball on a half turn, turn and drive, and play someone in? That's how you influence from that position. And I don't think Ross is ever going to be that player. Now, that's not me saying that he's an awful player, of course not. I feel him playing down the right hand side helps them more because he gets more space. I mean, think about it. When we play, we tend to play more down the left hand sides, and the right hand side plays a more supportive role. I think the right hand side will give Ross more space, and I think with his ability to take shots from distance, I think you tend to get more joy down that right hand side compared to the left. And if Ross has more space to play in the middle, I think that's going to get the best out of him. Now, yes, I know that Ross isn't Kante. He's not going to win every single 50-50. I mean, we saw right near the end, when he attempted a 50-50 ball, he slipped near the end of the game, and Vidi were able to create something from that mistake. But one advantage that Ross does have is that he knows what positions to be in off the ball and on the ball as well. And I think that if he has that responsibility taken away from him, that responsibility in having to provide that X factor, I think he'll play with more confidence, and I think that we might see more from him as well. Now, moving on to the fourth talking point, that's in regards to Olivier Giroud. And honestly, you guys, I'm thinking now that Giroud needs to start. It's not the first time I've spoken about this, but with Giroud, the one thing I really like about the player is his ability to actually occupy an opposition defender. What that really does is it really helps benefit our inside forwards because it gives them that space to take shots on goal, to make runs in behind, etc, etc. And you have to realise too, you're an inside forward cutting in from the left or the right hand side. When you've got someone like Olivier Giroud where you can play those layoff passes with, that gives you the possibilities for 1-2s. And you're going to have more confidence making runs infield because you know that the ball's going to stay in position. Now, that's the one thing that Morata just can't guarantee. Whenever he's about to receive a ball, you don't know if he's going to do something good with it or something bad. And too often, it's always been bad. And I'm saying this a lot, I always know, but the one thing that really frustrates me with Morata is that when he loses possession of the ball, he doesn't win free kicks. He rarely ever wins free kicks. The guy gets muscled off easily and he gets dispossessed way too cleanly. Now with Giroud, you don't get that. Now that's not me saying that Giroud is a top class striker. He isn't. I think he's a good one. And I think he's found his niche at being that backup striker. But I think now, just seeing all the games that Giroud plays in, we end up scoring more goals and we look more dangerous. Is it any surprise that Hazard has scored most of his goals when he's played with Giroud? Of course not. And look at the benefit that Giroud brings. Even if the guy doesn't play well, he can still help improve the team. Look at France. Look at how Griezmann and Mbappe benefited from having Giroud just taking out defenders from the game. I'm starting to think now, until we bring in a potential striker in January, I think Giroud is the only option playing up front. And to end on the final talking point, that's in regards to Ruben. Now with Ruben, it wasn't the greatest performance from him yesterday. That's not me saying that he was awful or he put in a 4 out of 10. It wasn't anything that extreme, but I think that it wasn't his greatest game, and I kind of felt that he was kind of overdoing things. I think that he really wanted to impress. He's been on very good form recently, but how many times was he overplaying a pass or overrunning the ball? And it was just very uncharacteristic. Do I think this game showed us why Cover should start over him? Personally, no, in my opinion. As I said, I thought Ruben looked better when Hudson, Odoi and Emerson were down that left-hand sides, and he looks really good linking up with Hazard. Still though, it's looking now that Sarri likes Ruben and Cover for that number 8 position, and it feels like Ruben's competition for a place in the team isn't going to be as extreme as before. But anyway, you guys, that's going to bring an end to today's 5 talking points video. Please like, comment and subscribe. I'm NiniFC, this is Blue Line CV, signing out.